Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching us live from a different time zone, good morning or good evening, wherever you may be. And if it's your first time in my platform, my name is Marilyn. I am the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS, and we're Asia's most trusted training and business solutions partner. We're all about connecting people, knowledge, and opportunities for organizational success. And we do this through meaningful learning experiences, executive communities, strategic conversations, and business connections that drive growth and transformation. And today we will have our final session out of the series Executive Reset, leading from a more grounded place. And today's topic is about resetting your system, mind, body, and how you lead. And to have this conversation, I'd like to invite my panelists or my guests. We have Adam.
Hi.
He's credentialed mental health clinician or ACMHN, NLP master trainer, founder of AJR Counseling, Coaching, and Consulting, and the AJR International Academy of NLP. And I also have here my friend Jovan Medrano. He's an ICF professional certified coach or PCC, certified NLP coach and trainer, founder of Thrive Beyond Limits, and lead facilitator of the Bali Executive Reset Retreat. Good afternoon.
Hi,
Hi Marilyn. Hi everyone. Hi Adam.
hi, Jovan. Hi, everyone.
Yes. So let's get started. Again, today our topic is about resetting your system, mind, body, and how you led. And we've already had two different sessions in the last 2 weeks. And so I'm just going straight to the question. So my first question for both of you is, many leaders know what they should do, and yet they still fall back into the same habits and patterns. Ouch. So, why do changes often fail when they stay only at the level of mindset or intellectual understanding?
Mm. Did you want to go first, Jovan, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. Look, I think it's one of the biggest myths in personal development that awareness
Mm-hmm.
like automatically creates change, because it doesn't. People can know exactly what they should do, and they can read every leadership book, listen to podcasts, attend seminars, and intellectually understand what needs to change, yet still find themselves repeating the same patterns. And we do that. One of the prime directives of our unconscious mind is that it follows the least path of resistance. So we keep doing the same thing over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
expecting a different result. And look, there's reasons why that happens. Because information changes knowledge, right? And experiences changes the identity. And I think our behaviors aren't driven primarily by what we actually know. They're driven by the nervous system. And the nervous system believes is safe, and by the identity we've built over like probably decades, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think from an NLP perspective, uh, yeah, every experience is filtered through our internal representations, our beliefs, our values, memories, and emotional states. And I think those filters create our reality. And if those filters don't change, behavior rarely changes for long either. I mean, clinically, I often explain it this way to clients. The conscious mind might say, I need to delegate more. But the unconscious mind might be saying, if I don't control everything, something bad's going to happen. Guess which one often wins, right? But leadership isn't simply a thinking problem. It's
Mm-hmm.
often an identity problem. And until leaders update the emotional meaning that's attached to some of those old experiences, they can unconsciously recreate familiar patterns. And even when those patterns are probably exhausting. And I know that for a fact because I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
to add on to what Adam just shared, right? And I think a lot of the listeners would resonate with this. That they probably would have heard this in the past as well. Someone would have told them, "Oh, just think positive. Think positive. Think positive." or you just need to have a positive mindset. And guess what
Mm.
happened? Right? Like a lot of times that is good, like only in the beginning, but then you get hit hard again, and then what now, right? And so I think a lot of us have experienced this in the past, and it not because that exactly doesn't work, but it's incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just one piece of the puzzle. And
Yeah,
in order to really have a sustainable transformation, then you need to go deeper, not just in that intellectual level.
exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess asking both of you, how many smart people do you know, like growing up, that are now like super successful?
Mm.
Like out of all those smart people, like very intelligent people that you've met, like
Mm-hmm.
how many are really really like successful and happy in their life, right?
Mm.
So just from my experience, like recalling only a few of them. So it's not really a measure of success. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. That's so true. So true. And it takes repetition to change. Once you have a bit of a formula to be able to make change, and if you're consistent with it and persist with it and repeat it, it becomes the second nature again, right? So it becomes another automatic pattern that we have. But it's about being aware of it. That's the main thing.
Mm, correct.
Okay, so what I'm getting from what you both shared is really um is making to possible I mean transformation to possibly happen by really not only building or having awareness of this, but also building that as part of your habits, because again, sometimes what you say will might be different from what you actually do, right? Or as you mentioned earlier, Jovan, that sometimes at the start, okay, you're gonna do it, but then after a while, then you tend to like forget to do it again, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is quite common for most humans, because again, on the NLP perspective, as you were saying, it's like an easy way out, or we tend to go to where we are comfortable,
mm,
right?
Yeah, and
So,
in psychology as well, like
mm,
mindset is like on the surface level, like from
mm-hmm,
behavior, then you have the mindset, the attitude.
mm-hmm,
But real transformational work really needs to go deeper
mm,
into like beliefs, like what we talked about last week.
mm-hmm,
mm,
Beliefs, the identity level, like Adam mentioned that earlier as well,
mm.
mm-hmm,
because those are really deeper, and we go to the source basically.
Yeah. I think the three A's. I mean, I think I mentioned that when I did my interview with you a couple of weeks ago. The awareness and the acceptance and the action, and those three have to be in place for it to be able to for change to actually happen, right? And
mm-hmm,
I mean, you can't, like I said, I think I said that the last time was, you can't action something that you haven't accepted, and you can't accept something you're not aware of. So
mm-hmm,
awareness is the key to a lot of things. And yeah, Jovan's absolutely right. A lot of this stuff comes from a very unconscious level. You're not thinking about it, but even
mm-hmm.
if it doesn't feel good, you might be in it just because it's more comfortable. You know what it is. Yeah.
That's very interesting, right? And so I'd like to ask, if we actually like look into both your perspective, how do identity, emotional patterns, and our nervous system quietly influence the way leaders make decisions? And as you've mentioned just now, I think I haven't flashed it. The real transformation happens when there's awareness, the belief has changed, and of course your identity change, and that also requires acceptance and action, right? So how does that affect or influence the way leaders make decisions, lead their teams, or even respond under pressure?
Mm, okay. Um, For me, I don't think leadership begins with strategy. I think leadership actually begins with self. And that took me a long time, I think, to understand that myself, really.
Mhm.
I think every leader carries like an invisible operating system, and it's made
Mhm.
up of beliefs, past experiences, identity, emotional conditioning, and nervous system responses. And most leaders aren't reacting to what's happening today. They're reacting to what their brain has learned to expect over many years. And if someone has learned that mistakes lead to criticism, they'll often become perfectionistic, right? And if they've learned they have to prove themselves, they'll overwork. If they learned conflict isn't safe, they'll avoid difficult conversations. And if they've experienced manipulation or emotionally unsafe relationships, they may even struggle to trust people or delegate or feel secure despite the external success.
Mhm.
Um, their leadership becomes less about the present moment, I think, and more about protecting themselves from those old experiences. From a nervous system perspective, when we're in survival mode, the brain prioritizes protection over creativity. So when that happens, curiosity will actually decrease, innovation decreases, listening decreases,
Mhm.
decision making actually narrows down. And the higher someone moves into leadership, the less important IQ becomes, and that's what Jovan was saying before, right? About the
Mhm.
intelligence, and look, the more important emotional regulation becomes, it becomes even more important, right? So because your team doesn't simply respond to your words, they might respond to your emotional state, uh,
Mhm.
because your nervous system is actually contagious.
Wow. So that's very interesting concept as well. And so that's how like it actually affects a lot of the decisions that they make, because as you mentioned, it actually decreases innovation, decreases listening. So there's also like how would I say this? There's not only a challenge, but I guess there's definitely an effect on how leaders do um, make their decisions because of this influence experiences or identity that you were mentioning earlier. So do you have anything to add,
I
Jovan?
think for me, working with leaders, founders, entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
solopreneurs, and one thing that stood out for me is that they have a very strong sense of identity.
Mm,
I think we've been talking about identity a lot here as well, and I think it's important to notice that all of us have identities and roles. Like
mm,
father, you're a mother, you're a son, your daughter, your boss, your employee, whatever, right? Like those we have those,
Mhm.
but it can also be as deep and as simple as I'm the fixer,
mm,
I'm the responsible one, I'm
Okay.
the always available. Oh, that is me, by the way. I'm the always available one. Like I this and these are like unconscious programs that are running, you know, behind our mind,
Mhm.
in our unconscious mind. And I think Adam was stressing earlier that awareness is really, really important as the first step, because
Mhm.
without
mm,
seeing, without noticing those things, these programs, then it's not possible to actually do something about it, like to change it, or you can even choose to keep it if it's working for you.
mm.
So
Yeah.
so I think that is the first thing that leaders really need to see for themselves, is like, what is the identity that I am taking on, the role that I'm playing here, right? And is it working for me, is it not working for me? Then those questions will come up next. I love the when I talk to my clients about this, I love the sticker analogy when I share this with them. So the identity is like stickers. Like, have you ever removed the stickers from, like, let's say for example, you you buy a plate, or
Mm-hmm.
and then they would have those stickers below, and then you
Mm-hmm.
try to remove it, and like so hard, it's so sticky. So uh, I see identity as something like that, like those kind of stickers that are very difficult to remove,
Mm.
right? And normally when you force it, when you remove it, then there's the adhesive that is left over there, and we think we have like, oh, change our identity, but there's still a lot of, those remnants happening
Mm-hmm.
inside. But when we do it
Mm.
properly, like for example, we go for therapy or coaching, then there's a proper way of, kind of like removing it and going through that process. So I love that analogy when I share that with my clients. But that's how powerful identity is. I think that's the first step, important step.
Very interesting. And before I proceed to the next question, I just want to invite our live audience to join us in this conversation. If you do have any aha moments, any takeaways, or even questions for Jovan and Adam, on top of what I already have, do let us know. And I'd like to acknowledge John Paul Polo for sharing a heart for us. Thank you so much.
Hi,
Yeah.
John.
So, and so that's very interesting. I mean, how identities and that roles that we attach to ourselves, and how you know like how all of these, our operating system, our experiences, identities, emotional conditioning, nervous system, affects, of course, how we make decisions as a leader, right? So if we think of leadership as mind, body, and structure, what does each of those areas contribute to sustainable change, and what happens when one piece is missing?
Mm. I guess it depends on which piece is missing, right? you know,
Yeah.
because I think it's structure. I mean, a lot of people don't realize either that the mind is not the brain, right? So,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Mm,
your
yeah.
unconscious mind is something that, you could, I think I might have said this, but there's a saying, until you make the unconscious conscious, you'll go through life and
Mhm.
call it fate, right? But when you're changing things in your unconscious mind, it actually is changing structural stuff in your brain, which is what we call neuroplasticity. And
Mhm.
I guess in the framework that you're talking about, the mind, body, and the structure, right?
Mhm.
Um, and look, I actually love this framework because sustainable leadership really is an integration of all three, and I think all three have to
Mhm.
be there to work. And when we look at the mind, this is about beliefs, it's about perspective, it's
Mhm.
about decision making, mental flexibility, problem solving, vision, and I mean, without all that stuff, their leaders become reactive instead of intentional. Yeah, and I think when we look at the body of it, the body is where the stress actually lives. So it's where burnout actually shows up, and that can show up in many ways. It's where the emotional regulation either happens or it doesn't. And I think you can't think clearly if your nervous system believes you're under threat, because it's in that flight or fight mode. And that's why a lot of practices like breath work, movement, recovery, and sleep aren't actually luxuries when they're actually leadership tools if you think about it.
Mhm.
And moving that onto the structure. Structure is actually where the intention becomes consistency, and even the best mindset won't survive poor systems.
Mhm.
If you think about like boundaries, calendars, decision frameworks, or team communication, priorities, accountability, those things protect leaders from decision fatigue. But when one piece is missing, everything becomes harder. And I think, great mindset without nervous system regulation becomes overthinking. And just in saying that, I was just reminded of my daughter had a baby in September last year, right? And
Mhm.
she put a post on social media recently where there was a picture of her. Only not recently had come home from hospital after having her, And where she had a little bit of that postnatal depression, she's okay with me talking about that, but then she put this other photo up of where she is now. And when you look at that, when we talk about identity and we're shifting into a different identity, because we do that, you have to learn that new identity, right? And for her, it took a long time because her whole identity was actually blown apart for a while, in a good way. But at the time, it was really hard for her to do that. And so her nervous system regulation was kind of overthinking. She was a new mum. She didn't know what to do. The baby didn't come with a instruction manual, So I think good regulation without strategy becomes comfort without progress. And I think strong strategy around having that self-awareness often produces successful businesses with exhausted leaders. And but if to turn around, sustainable leadership happens when mind and your body and structure are all in alignment.
Yeah. And I think Adam gave a very comprehensive and complete explanation. But I think just one thing to add, I think it's more of a question and to invoke some curiosity into our, viewers as well. Because me and Adam, we work a lot with highly capable, super capable people. They've achieved success in their lives. And so among these three, what do you think is the most taken for granted for among these three?
Maybe their
Marilyn
health.
is highly capable, so which one do you think? The mind, the body, or the structure?
It's more on probably the body.
The body. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times I would say that with most leaders, especially those who are actually high performing, as you mentioned, the tendency is they continue to work and work and work, and without noticing the burnout, that their body is suffering from stress and all of stuff, right? And since they're so focused with their goals, and their intentions, so the tendency is that they forget about
Ex-
how they
exactly.
feel.
Exactly. And this is not like special to like, Marilyn and Adam and me also experienced this. And this
Absolutely.
is the reason we came together and, you know, worked out this retreat in order to
Mhm,
help specifically these types of leaders, highly
mhm,
capable leaders who somehow have forgotten to take care of themselves, right?
mhm,
And so they're in the brink of like burnout, and so they need a reset in order to and understand better, like because now structure, you
mhm,
can get structure, especially with AI and all,
Mm,
uh,
mhm,
very easily. But then understanding what is right for them,
mhm,
mm,
right? Because there's so much information now. Like now, it's the main thing that we want to be able to do as leaders is to
mhm,
understand like what fits me better,
mm,
right? Because not everything will be able to fit. So I think, yeah, understanding that body is the most, taken for
mm,
granted. Of course,
mhm,
not everyone, but there are a lot of leaders who have taken for granted their bodies. But
mhm,
then the next question is like, okay, what's next? What is the formula that will fit me?
yeah. What's that presupposition too? That NLP presupposition: the mind and body are connected, therefore they
Yeah.
affect each other.
mhm,
Yes. It's about being able to have that awareness and actually do something about it, and change how you might tackle something. But, mm,
exactly. And again, without being able to take care of all the three that we just mentioned, right? Mind,
mm,
body, and the structure. It's also very difficult to like for everything to flow, right? If I
Mm,
if I may say that.
yeah.
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 So again, many high performing performers stay in environment filled with constant noise, urgency, expectations, and what changes when leaders intentionally like step out of their normal environment and into dedicated reset spaces. I mean, you just made mention how important it is to also take care of our own body, Jovan, and part of that is having a reset or again step back or step out of the usual environment that you are in, right? And reset space like an immersion experience. Yeah. So
Mm.
what changes if that happens or if
Mm.
they invest on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. And like I was just reflecting on some of the things that I do. Like I had a busy day today, but in between clients, I'll go out and go for a walk. That's actually just shifting my environment and having a little bit of space, because I think the environment shapes behavior more than people actually realize. Because I think every environment reinforces the identity, and your office reminds you who you have to be. Your inbox reminds you what needs fixing. Your phone
Mm-hmm.
reminds you uh, who needs you. Your routine keeps replaying the same neurological pathways, and sometimes the most productive thing as a leader can actually do is actually leave, and get out of that space. Because I think once you're physically removed from the environment, that maintains the old patterns. Your
Mm-hmm.
brain becomes much more open to creating new ones. And from an NLP perspective, changing context actually interrupts automatic behavior. I find that if I do go on the walk or whatever, that I'm actually available much more emotionally, mentally, and connected with the next client, because I've been able to declutter my own mind, I guess. Yeah. Um, excuse me. I mean, when we look at changing context and interrupting that automatic behavior, what I'm talking about there is actually what we call a pattern interrupt, and that's when the brain becomes far more receptive to learning new possibilities. And when leaders immerse themselves in completely different environments without the constant interruptions,
Mm-hmm.
they can often experience something they've forgotten actually exists. And I think I've had that happen a few times, especially around mental clarity. And the urgency actually disappears, that things do go on even though you're not there. The noise can settle, the creativity returns,
Mm-hmm.
and they stop reacting and start thinking again. And I think that's incredibly difficult to create between emails and meetings, so to speak. What are your thoughts, Jovan, around that?
Well, yeah, you mentioned something that I wanted to share as well when Marilyn asked it. It's about pattern interrupt.
Mm,
So you explained it already. So one thing that I will add on is with regards to the pattern interrupt as well. I remember learning this from Anthony Robbins, who's also someone who teaches NLP, like he just named it differently. Many years ago, this one of the six uh, motivations or desires of human beings. Well, to understand it better, like we two of those is certainty and uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we both need those those things. And when this is just like the pattern interrupt, like when we are in this constant like um, work mode, like cycle, and keep on doing that, so that we become comfortable with that because of the certainty of it.
mm,
Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like wake up at this hour and then go to the office, start work, da da da, da and then repeat that, the next day. And but then it gets boring, and then that's when we burn out. And what Adam was sharing, that's when we lose our sense of creativity, because everything kind of like is similar, it's the same
mm,
every
Mm-hmm.
day. And so what happens when we remove ourselves from this cycle, from this repeatability, this certainty, then we interrupt that pattern, and we create uncertainty. Like, okay, what's gonna happen next? And then that opens up now possibility, opens up like new choices, opens up creativity, just like what Adam was saying. I think people forget that that is important too.
Mm-hmm.
And working with entrepreneurs, this is the part that is super interesting, because the reason that they got into entrepreneurship in the first place is the uncertainty, is the possibilities, the excitement of it. And then we get bogged down with the operations, like paying bills, paying our employees, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fun now is gone, right? So I love that. So yeah, so pattern interrupt is definitely the most important part here.
Thank you, thank you. And again, sometimes it's difficult when you're not aware, right, to know that it's
Yeah.
actually a cycle or it's already a pattern. And it's interesting like how simple you can actually interrupt it, like what Adam said earlier,
Mm.
just even walking, or like you mentioned, just stopping whatever you're doing,
But
or like
you
doing
don't know what
something
you don't know,
else,
right?
Yeah.
That's the difficult
sorry.
part. You
Well, there is a,
don't know
like
what.
a, I like to do experiments sometimes, right? So I actually did this, and this was a few years ago now. I kind of came up with an idea that, okay, I wonder if I could look at some of the patterns that I'm in that are not harmful at all, and if
Mhm.
I change those patterns, wonder whether that would actually help me cope with change even more, right? So one of the patterns I recognized was getting in the shower. So I had this whole routine. I didn't have to think about what I did. I just get in the shower, I do the whole thing, right? And it's all in order. And I've got a mirror in my shower, so I can go in and shave and do everything and get out, right? So all I did, I remember, all I did was I shifted washing my hair and put something else in place. And I got out of the shower and I completely forgot to shave. So it was just shifting just one little thing can help you start to, and I think that really did help me over time. As I was even driving home, I always drove home exactly the same way. So I took a different route. All of a sudden I realized, where am I? You know what I mean? So it does, those little patterns that are not harmful at all are really good ways to, well, I think are really good ways to actually get in tune with having some change and interrupting some of those things and becoming a little bit more creative.
Nice.
It's very interesting. And now we have a lot of tips on how simple it is for us to interrupt all those patterns from walking or doing or shifting little things that you do, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
very interesting. Okay. So when leaders finally slow down and create space for reflections, what are some of the biggest truths or realization that they often discover about themselves?
Mm. This is probably one of my favorite questions, and I think I've touched on it a little bit. You know, when you do realize some things that you used to do that you don't do anymore, and I think it's because I think sometimes too, because slowing down isn't what most leaders are afraid of. It's what slowing down might actually reveal. And when people finally stop, the truth often catches up with them. And I regularly hear things like, "I built a successful business, but I've forgotten who I am. Uh, I've been performing success rather than feeling successful. I've been chasing achievement because I thought it would finally make me be enough. I don't actually know what I want anymore, or I've become really good at looking strong while quietly I'm underneath that I'm feeling completely exhausted." So I think the biggest realization isn't usually about business. It's actually about the identity again. And I think people realize they've confused what they do with who they are. And once that distinction becomes clear, leadership can actually change because they stop leading from fear and start leading from like a grounded type of confidence. And I think that's the difference. Grounded leaders don't have to prove themselves, and they don't need to control everything or become those micromanagers or whatever, right? But and they don't need to be the smartest person in the room. They're secure enough to listen, confident enough to delegate, and I think present enough to connect. And that's the kind of leadership people naturally, I think, want to follow and see. That's, you know, I know when I do that stuff, I become creative. And sometimes, you know, I'm so big pictured too that I can see my goal at the end without, and I don't know the details to get there. And that can annoy some of my staff, right? Because I'm changing my mind a bit. But at the same time, it's showing them that it's okay to try things and do things a little bit differently, or step out of your comfort zone and give something a go. And, you know, learn from that stuff, learn from it rather than kind of running away from it, so to speak.
Mm, yeah, nicely put. I couldn't have said it better. The the thing that I probably would add on to that is, I think simply when we like, of course, we included as leaders, highly capable leaders as well. When we slow down,
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
when we that's the time we get to see and realize that the story that we have been telling ourselves, like that's what Adam has been saying as well, with regards to the identity, is already different.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
And I've experienced this personally, like several times in my journey as an entrepreneur. Um, Looking at like what I told myself, like how I need to be in order to be successful in business.
mm,
And when I saw that, then that's when I reached a decision point. Like what Adam was saying with the AAA, like, acknowledging and accepting it. Like, what do I do with this? Like, do I now continue, with the same story, but it doesn't feel right to me anymore, or do I shift? Do I change? I think that's the scary part.
mm,
That a lot of highly capable leaders are scared to step into.
mm,
Like, oh, what if I slow down and then I really see that, oh, this is not for me anymore. Then what now?
mm,
Mm-hmm.
And but that's only one thing that is possible to show up. But I think that is something that one of the biggest truths that a highly capable leader can see when they actually slow down. Wanted
mm.
to add.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm,
That's very interesting as well. Like sometimes, they are so afraid to do something different when they know that whatever they are doing is already working. And
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst part. Like, everything is working. Why do I want to change it?
yeah.
exactly right. And yet they don't realize, like, I mean, again, the like what we already discussed, like it's always like the forgotten part, the part of being burned out, or like forgetting about our body and the stress that we give into our body because we keep on just working.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right, and
Absolutely.
pushing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm glad to learn, at least, the triple A again. We can, uh stop reminding everyone, because everything starts with awareness as well, right? Especially the first A.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. And so, before we that's actually the last question I have for you, but before we end this conversation, is there like any additional comments, feedback, or um, anything that you'd like to leave our audience with? And maybe you'd like to share about um, the executive resets that you're going to have in Bali.
Yep.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Adam.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think you know, I often say that leadership isn't about becoming someone new. It's about removing everything that stops you from leading as the person you already are. And I think real transformation doesn't happen because someone learns another leadership model. It happens because their thinking and their identity, their nervous system, and the daily actions come into a nice alignment. And that's when change stops feeling like hard work and starts becoming who they naturally are.
Mm-hmm.
And with this Bali, this retreat that we're putting on, this is about kind of, it's actually putting that into place. And for me, for Jovan and I, this is new stuff that we've done, right? And we're stepping into some uncomfortability there to do that, but also it's a change for us as well. We're changing because of what we're actually doing, and we're taking that risk, and we're just going in and we're going to give it all we've got. So I think that's the retreat in itself is actually saying, is the doing of what we're actually talking about here as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, nicely said. Yeah, I think I mentioned this last week as well. Um, the retreat that we have created, like me, Adam, um, is really to serve, to be able to help
Mm.
people, and we wanted to create this wonderful space
Mm-hmm.
where people can achieve that alignment that we are talking about. And it's not only like an ordinary like retreat wherein you fly in, you do stuff, and then you go back home and go back to your daily lives. This
Mm.
is like a retreat that we will fully support you afterwards, with a 90-day integration wherein you will be there with you to integrate everything that you've learned, everything that you have experienced during the retreat. So yeah, I believe what we have created for this highly capable leaders will definitely um, create a wonderful transformation.
Yeah, and I think that after retreat support is a way of us helping whoever does attend the retreat to keep the new behaviours, the new
Mm,
that new stuff for leaders to leave, and like we said around that, repetition keep is what makes the change. That's
Right.
this
that's what
part.
we're doing after, as part of it, of getting leaders or CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs to actually take that change with them into the future and maintain it, but know that they can change again if they want to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
that's really great, and I think that's what makes your retreat different from others, right?
Exactly.
There's a support after, even after, but because again, like what we have discussed in the last three sessions as well, how we can be very comfortable but with what we already like to do or usually do, right? And a real transformation only happens when you build it with your belief identity and you continue to take action and create
Exactly.
the habit that you really want to have as a leader, right? Because at the end of the day, there are decisions that you make that will be better, and there will be like a lot of things and communications and even other leadership potentials from you, and taking care of yourself as well, in the end, right? So that's I am really excited for this retreat, and yeah, I really appreciate the what you have shared, the insights that you have shared in the last three sessions. So thank you so much, and I'd like to invite our audience as well to continue to have this conversation. For sure, there will be people who will be watching this on a replay. So I guess to leave the audience with this question for you to to continue to answer or even ask yourself, I guess. So are you actually exhausted because of the amount of work you do? Or is it because you're carrying a version of yourself that no longer fits? Right? It's a great question for them to
Mm-hmm.
ask themselves, especially for those leaders who are very highly capable and high potential, right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
thank you for having us in your platform,
Yeah.
Marilyn.
Thank you so much.
Uh, Being able to like not only share what we are offering, but at the same time, educating people. I think This is where me and Adam are aligned as well. Like we love, helping people by educating them about,
Mhm.
themselves. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
And there's no other like special gift that you can receive, but it's starting from you, right? Learning about yourself
as themselves.
and
Yes,
becoming.
exactly.
So thank you so much for the all the awareness and the insights that you, Jovan and Adam, have shared to us and to our audience. And again, thank you so much, and we look forward to having all of you again in our next sessions. And yeah, thank you so much, and see you at the retreat.
Right.
Have a
Ciao.
good day,
See ya.
everyone.
Bye.